He doesn't need you to explain yourself. Before you ever speak, he already knows what kind of day you've had. He notices the tiny pauses in your tone, the way your energy shifts when you're pretending you're fine, the half-second delay before you say nothing's wrong. To most people, those things go unnoticed, but not to a Scorpio man. He reads emotion like it's written in bold print. He listens for what you don't say. He studies your energy the way others study a face, memorizing the hidden language of your size, your distance, your silence. It's not that he's psychic, it's that he feels everything: your fear, your longing, your hesitation, and your truth, the one you tried to bury under composure. You are a book, open, layered, complex, and he's the kind of man who doesn't just skim pages. He reads between the lines. He finds the parts you didn't mean to reveal. But here's where it gets dangerous. The moment he understands you, he holds power. Because once a Scorpio man knows your emotional language, he can either protect it or use it. And what he does with that power reveals the difference between a man who's mastered his emotions and one who's mastered everyone else's. In this video, we're going to go deep. We'll explore how Scorpio men read women, why they do it, the shadow and evolved sides of this power, and what it ultimately means for love, trust, and connection. By the end, you'll understand not just what he sees, but why it matters. Chapter 1, The Unspoken Language of Emotion. Every Scorpio man speaks a language few can hear. It doesn't come from words, it comes from energy. He notices the soft tremor in your voice when you're holding back tears. He feels the drop in your aura when something's bothering you. He senses when your laughter is real and when it's just a shield. To him, emotions are not random, they are patterns. Each tone, each silence, each gesture tells him something about who you are, what you trust, what you fear, what you secretly crave. He doesn't learn this by accident, he learns it through survival. Scorpio energy is born from depth and from reading the room before the danger appears, from watching quietly until the truth reveals itself. It's the instinct of someone who's been burned by deception before and refuses to be blindsided again. So he pays attention to everything. He'll notice the way your mood changes when someone's name comes up. He'll catch how your eyes dart away when you're hiding discomfort. He'll even sense when your heart wants something your logic is denying. And while others hear what you say, he listens to what your soul whispers underneath it. That's why it feels like he just knows, because on some level he does. It's not about prying, it's about feeling you. He reads emotions the way a musician reads notes, searching for rhythm, harmony, and dissonance. But here's what most people don't realize. He's not just reading you. He's trying to understand himself through you. Every emotion he recognizes in you is something he's felt before, maybe even buried. Your sadness, your fear, your tenderness, they mirror his own. And that mirror is both magnetic and terrifying. Because when he looks into you, he's not just learning who you are, he's remembering who he used to be. Chapter 2, The Psychology Behind His Perception. To understand how a Scorpio man reads you, you have to understand what drives him to look so deeply in the first place. He doesn't analyze you out of curiosity. He does it out of instinct. His ruler, Pluto, governs everything hidden: secrets, motives, emotions that live beneath the surface. So when he connects with someone, his nature is to probe, to uncover, to know. But there's more to it than astrology. There's psychology, layers of it. Somewhere in his past, he learned that knowledge equals safety, that if he could understand people's moods before they turned, if he could sense the emotional weather before the storm hit, he could protect himself. That's why even when he loves, he watches. He studies your rhythm, your tone, your inconsistencies, not because he doubts you, but because he's been caught off guard before. He's not just reading your feelings, he's reading patterns of potential pain. It's a quiet kind of vigilance, the kind that keeps him one step ahead but emotionally miles away. He wants to know what drives you, what wounds you hide, what makes you flinch, not to judge, but to prepare. Because for a Scorpio man, emotional transparency is both fascination and fear. He craves it in others, yet resists it in himself. He wants to see everything, yet reveal nothing. That's the paradox. He can hold eye contact that feels like he's reading your soul, but when you try to read him, you hit a wall of silence so thick it feels sacred. Because for him, understanding is survival, and being understood feels like surrender. So when he looks at you, when you feel that piercing gaze that seems to know you, remember, he's not just looking for love, he's looking for safety inside your eyes. But until he heals that old fear of betrayal, his intuition won't always lead him toward intimacy. Sometimes it leads him toward control. Chapter 3: The Power of Emotional X ray Vision. A Scorpio man doesn't just notice emotions, he dissects them. It's as if he has an x ray for the heart. Every glance, every sigh, every shift in your posture tells him a story you didn't intend to tell. He sees contradictions. When your words say one thing but your energy says another. He reads the hesitations in your voice, the fleeting micro expressions on your face, the way your body subtly recoils or leans in. It's not magic, it's pattern recognition on a level most people never reach. It's psychology and instinct fused with an emotional intensity that borders on obsession. The power of this vision is double edged. This is why interactions with a Scorpio man feel electric, sometimes unnerving, because he sees what no one else notices and he never forgets. He understands the rhythm of your inner world. He knows which parts are tender, which parts are armored, which parts are still raw from old wounds. And once he has that knowledge, the question becomes inevitable. What will he do with it? Chapter 4: When Knowledge Becomes Control, Knowing Someone's Heart is a Powerful Thing. A Scorpio man knows this better than most, and in the hands of an unhealed Scorpio, that knowledge becomes a form of control. He doesn't need to shout, demand, or manipulate with force. His power is quiet, subtle, and insidious. A look, a pause, a withdrawal, a shift in energy that makes you second guess your own feelings. He knows exactly which buttons to press and which silence will make you reach for him. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's instinct, sometimes it's fear. The fear of being hurt first, the fear of being exposed, because controlling the situation, controlling the emotions around him, feels safer than being vulnerable. You may feel drawn to him, even captivated, yet unsettled at the same time. There's a pull you can't explain, magnetic, confusing, intoxicating. It's the power of someone who can read your soul and knows the weight of it. But there's a line between understanding and using that understanding. Chapter 5: The Game of Emotional Chess. To a Scorpio man, emotions are never random. They are moves on a board, pieces in a game only he can see. He watches, he waits, he calculates. Every pause, every smile, every hesitation becomes a piece of information. And once he understands the rhythm of your heart, he can anticipate your next move, sometimes before you even know it yourself. In his unhealed form, this becomes a game of strategy. He'll test your loyalty, push boundaries, or withdraw just enough to see how far you'll reach for him. He doesn't need to speak. His energy does all the work. A subtle glance, a slight coldness, a delayed response, each one is a calculated step in an emotional chess match. It's fascinating, intoxicating, and at times exhausting to be around because no one else moves with this kind of precision. No one else seems to see you, all of you, and yet keeps the upper hand so effortlessly. But here's the truth: for every game he plays outwardly, there's an inward battle happening at the same time. The Scorpio who obsesses over control is often terrified of being seen. He's strategizing not just to win you over, but to protect himself from getting hurt first. Chapter 6, the moment his power turns on him. There comes a point in a Scorpio man's journey when all the insight, all the calculation, all the emotional strategy turns inward. The very power that allowed him to read others, to anticipate their moves, to feel everything before it's spoken, suddenly becomes a mirror. He realizes that while he's been decoding everyone else's emotions, no one has decoded his. Not fully, not ever. It's a quiet kind of reckoning. A night when the games, the withdrawals, the testing of hearts all come back to him. He sees the walls he's built, the trust he's withheld, the vulnerability he's denied himself. And it's lonely, because understanding others does not replace being understood. Reading a woman's heart doesn't fill the emptiness of his own. Predicting reactions doesn't heal the fear of rejection that lives deep inside. In that moment, he feels the weight of his own strategies. He sees the cost of control, the ways his intelligence and intuition, once weapons, have kept him isolated. Some men never reach this point. They keep observing, keep strategizing, keep keeping others at a distance, never realizing that the greatest insight isn't about knowing them, but knowing himself. But the Scorpio who does reach this moment begins the hardest work of all, turning his gaze inward, confronting the shadow he's been hiding from, and learning that the heart he's studied in others is the same heart he must finally face in himself. It is here, in this reckoning, that the unhealed begins the path to evolution, where knowledge of others transforms into empathy, where control turns into connection, because a man who can read hearts and finally dares to reveal his own becomes someone almost impossible to resist, not because of power, but because of presence, truth, and emotional depth. Chapter 7, the shift toward the evolved Scorpio. When a Scorpio man begins to evolve, something subtle yet profound happens. The same energy he once used to predict, manipulate, or control now becomes a force for understanding and protection. His gaze softens, his intensity no longer feels threatening, it feels grounding. The X-ray vision that once unsettled you now makes you feel safe, truly seen, without the weight of judgment. He starts to recognize the sacredness of emotions, not as puzzles to solve, but as expressions to honor. He understands that knowing a woman's heart isn't about power, it's about connection, trust, and reverence. The evolved Scorpio doesn't need to play games or test loyalty. He doesn't withdraw to see if you'll chase or analyze every micro expression for leverage. He simply feels and he listens. And in this space, something magical happens. His presence becomes magnetic, not because of intensity or control, but because of authenticity, because he can love without fear and care without trying to own. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of confronting shadows, embracing vulnerability, and learning that true strength lies in emotional integrity. The evolved Scorpio is still deep, intense, and powerful, but now that power is quiet. It's protective, it's sacred, it's a gift. He has moved from reading hearts to holding them. And in that shift, the energy between him and others changes forever. Chapter 8, the feminine energy as his mirror. A Scorpio man sees deeply not only because of who he is, but because of who he encounters. Women, with their emotional depth, their sensitivity, their intuition, act as mirrors to his soul. They reflect back the parts of himself he's hiding, the fear, the vulnerability, the longing he keeps buried, and he cannot ignore it. With the unhealed Scorpio, this reflection can feel overwhelming. He notices everything, your energy, your reactions, your truths. But instead of embracing it, he resists. He tests, he manipulates, he pulls away, because the reflection reminds him of his own shadows he hasn't yet faced. With the evolved Scorpio, it's different. He doesn't run from the mirror. He studies it. He learns from it. He grows through it. He sees your strength, your vulnerability, your authenticity, and it awakens the best in him. Feminine energy challenges him, yes, but it also nurtures him if he's ready to receive it. The way he responds reveals his level of evolution. The unhealed will provoke, control, or misread your reflection, while the evolved will honor it, protect it, and meet it with reverence. In essence, the women in a Scorpio man's life are catalysts. They reveal who he is, who he fears, and who he can become. Through their reflection, he either continues to play games or steps into emotional mastery. Because a Scorpio man's ability to read women is not just about perception, it's about transformation. Chapter 9: What he ultimately does with that power. What a Scorpio man does with his power depends on the work he has done on himself. The depth of his understanding, the intensity of his perception, can either harm or heal. It can isolate or connect. It can break hearts or honor them, because the power isn't in seeing, the power is in how he chooses to respond once he sees. And here lies the paradox. The same man who could have unsettled or controlled you with a single glance can also make you feel seen, safe, and understood in ways no one else ever could. When he masters this, the Scorpio man stops needing to read others for advantage. Instead, he reads to protect, to nurture, to love with intention. And that is when his insight, once feared, becomes irresistible. Not because of intensity, not because of mystery, but because of trust, presence, and a depth of heart few ever encounter. He no longer seeks to control the story, he seeks to honor it. And in that choice, he becomes not only a man of power, but a man of love. Closing: the reader becomes the story. In the end, a Scorpio man who reads women like a book is not merely fascinated by what he sees, he is confronted by what he feels, the intensity of connection, the rawness of emotion, and ultimately the reflection of his own heart. So, if a Scorpio man has ever made you feel profoundly seen or profoundly unsettled, know this: it is not his insight that defines the experience, it is his choice. And when he chooses well, when he chooses wisely, he becomes more than a reader of hearts. He becomes a guardian of them. The story he writes is not on the pages of others. It is written in the architecture of his own soul. He may read many hearts in his lifetime, but the greatest story he ever experiences is the one he learns to live within himself. Because the most powerful insight a Scorpio can ever have is the courage to see, understand, and honor his own heart.